and welcome to another booktube video from me, Lauren, from Lauren and the Books. When is a reading wrap up? Not a reading wrap up when it's over almost 2 weeks late. This will be going up on Friday. I'm filming this Thursday evening. Hot one, isn't it? Yeah, I've got my May reading wrap up, the second half of May, the books I read in the second half of May. My God, my glasses. I was doing this last time I filmed a video, wasn't I? When my glasses were so filthy. Yeah, so these are the books that I read in the second half of May, so there'll be some Little Women retellings, etc. included in here. But this was quite some time ago. So for example, this book, Asking for a Friend, which was the first book I read in the second half of May by Andy Osho, I only gave this a mere 1 star, and I don't really remember much about it. You will see my face again shortly. I just tied my hair tie. I listened to the audiobook of this. I got it on Libby, and Andy Osho, I'm quite a fan of her acting, and she's a comedy writer. I saw her interviewed on the Graham Norton show and thought this book sounded quite good. Again, it's one of those books that is presented to me in a way in which I believe that this is going to be a book purely about female friendships and the nuances and the complex nature of that. When really, this was a book about 3 girls, 3 women, all fucking being awful to each other, which is the case, I seem to find, when I read books about female friendship. I am a female, I have many female friendships. There is no way I would speak to or do the actions of which the girls in this book do to each other. So yeah, I'm constantly finding that. I persevered. I don't know why I persevered. Maybe because I was hoping that I'd heard, I just had a belief in it and it just didn't pay off. So yeah, I gave it 1 star, did not enjoy it, listened to the audiobook. Next up was another book I read on the Libby app, and that is Little Leaders, Bold Women in Black History by Vashti Harrison. This is one of these little cutesy books, which is, you have like a picture of somebody from history and then information about them. And I get a lot of sort of like base information from books like this, yeah, I thought it was a good sort of introduction and exploration of the basics of these women in Black history. Oh, David, you wouldn't mind closing that door, would you? The washing machine's going. Oh, he's just ignoring me. I better do it myself then. I don't know if that's any better. Thanks, David.
What?
I said you wouldn't mind closing that door for me, would you? And you wouldn't listen, so I had to get up and do it myself.
I was playing a video.
That's okay. You can't be at my every beck and call. Yeah. So this book, I've found it interesting in terms of the base knowledge and things like that. However, what I will say about this book is that these women were all depicted as very much the same size in these illustrations, and I know from, not because some of these women I weren't aware of, but some of them I were, i.e. Oprah Winfrey, that Oprah Winfrey is not the same size as, I'm trying to think of somebody else that was in it. I can't remember, it was such a long time ago, but there's definitely, like, everyone was made to look the same slim size with very slim waist, and I thought, you could have just done a little bit more work there and then that would have been perfect. So yeah, I did have a problem with the size depicted of the women, but apart from that I thought the actual the base knowledge was good. Keep saying base knowledge, don't I? Then next up, another 1 star book. God, the second half of the month really did have some shitters in it. This was a Little Women retelling. So in May I read Little Women and then a lot of their retellings, and this was Spring Girls by Anna Todd. Now this was put to me as a military retelling of Little Women, and I didn't quite know what that meant, but what it actually means is that they fucking mention the fact that they're military based literally every page, and for the first sort of 2 chapters they just slung in as much military terminology and abbreviations as you could handle, and then neglected to mention it neglected any of these terms that you're sort of thinking, oh god, am I going to really need to know all of this? For the rest of the book they didn't even mention them. So yeah, I did not enjoy this. I felt it needed a really good edit. The repetition of words within sentences, particularly, I remember reading 1 page and the fact that, so like the words I've written down here, wool, cheese, and week, I remember. So there's a thing where she's talking about, she's looking at the wall, and on the wall she notices that the wall has cracks on the wall. Like literally that level of, that could have been edited the fuck down. Yeah, the army abbreviations and terminology really hammered home for the first few chapters and then abandoned for the rest of the book. You hear from all the girls So all of the girls who share the same names as they do in Little Women, plus Meredith, who is the girl's mother, but you don't hear from Amy's point of view, and Amy is fucking awful. I mean, they're all awful in this book, but Amy is particularly awful in this book, and she just never gets a chance to sort of speak for herself. She's just like this horrible person in the background, as is everyone. They really make Meg into a total slut, and it's just not good. It's just everything about this, I did not enjoy it, and I was almost sort of like hate reading it till the end. I did not enjoy it at all. Next up was More to the Story, which is another Little Women retelling by Henna Khan. This was the book that we read for my Patreon book club, and I actually gave this 3 stars, so I did enjoy it. However, I definitely think this is made for a much younger audience than I am. It's a middle grade book retelling Little Women from a Pakistani American point of view, and Jo is reimagined as Jamila. Now, there are some interesting aspects visited in this book. Sort of Jamila is a journalist. I feel like it was something in my eye. A journalist for the school newspaper, and there's a whole thing, a storyline with Amir, who is the lorry character. Amir and consent for news, like, and how can I put this? Yeah, it's like Amir sharing something with Jamila, sort of off the record, and then Jamila including that in an article and that not being cool. And I thought that was dealt with very well. Yeah, it was very cute and very youthful, and yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the sort of refocusing. What I found something about Little Women the text that I didn't enjoy, and I had a nice time reading it, Little Women, but it was very, very religious and lots of God stuff in there. However, this is obviously reimagined from a Muslim point of view, and it's set at Eid, and I just found that, I enjoyed that. I didn't find that too much at all, so I enjoyed the recentering of that. And yeah, as I said, it's clearly made for a younger audience than and I think if you've got younger audiences and people you want to sort of get familiar with the classics, then I would definitely recommend this. But yeah, it just sort of, it skimmed it for me, and it didn't really go into like the sadder events of Little Women, and yeah, it ended, it was very much a Little Women retelling. It didn't involve the Good Wives bit. But yeah, so I gave it 3 stars, and we had a nice chat about it. And yeah, interesting. Next up, another Little Women retelling. This was Magic in Concord, Little Witches, Magic in Concord by Lee Dragoon. Graphic novel retelling of Little Women, they're imagined as witches. Now, what I will say is it was a bit dark, and I mean that in terms of illustrations. Like, all of the illustrations is a bit of a boring colour palette, if I'm being honest. Like, it just didn't do much for me, and overall I just found it a bit meh. I actually ended up enjoying the little story at the end much more than the actual book. This was called Little Witches, The Problem of Too Many Pests, and this was about them. Look, you can already tell the difference in the illustrations. But yeah, I just feel like the storyline wasn't great enough to keep me interested when I was looking at like pages and pages of sort of like dark, loosely based on Little Women stuff. I just didn't love it, guys, didn't love it. Then I listened to Pew by Catherine Lacey, and I think I feel like I was much more intrigued by this book than I did enjoy it. I thought I was going to enjoy it a lot more, and my enjoyment didn't match up to sort of like how much I thought I was going to do, which is also obviously a product of my own making. But yeah, the premise delivered more to me than the actual book, and that is a shame because I thought it was going to be one of my faves. So you're following a small American religious town, and in their church one day they find somebody asleep in one of the pews, and this person is ambiguous in gender, in race, in age, and everyone sort of and this person gets named Pew, and this person is sort of treated as a bit of a confessional, and a lot of people tell Pew their secrets and thoughts they're having that they ordinarily wouldn't share. And as the book goes on, they're leaning on Pew more and more to give them more details about Pew themselves. So they're asking Pew, how old are you, and are you a boy or are you a girl, and like really focusing in on that. And when I talk about it, it sounds great, but the actual book itself, it just didn't live up to that. I don't know. I found it a bit wishy-washy, and I really hoped it would be a stonker for me. And sadly, it wasn't a stonker for me, so a bit saddened by that. Then the last 2 books I read in May were both Little Women retellings. They've both gone back to the library now. So it was Becoming Joe by Sophie Mackenzie, which I gave 2 star. Another Little Women retelling that was literally brimming with spelling mistakes and sort of grammatical errors and an apostrophe in the middle of a word that doesn't need an apostrophe, or 3 spaces after, like just absolutely brimming with it. And I can't believe that these things sort of get as far as being this particular book, Becoming Joe, there was 3 copies of this in the library that I got it from. So like, this has been mass produced with those level of terrible mistakes in it. It's just unbelievable. This centres around Joe, as the title would suggest, and Joe in this book is just not cool, like very self-centred, jealous, spiteful, no redeeming features that the Joe in the sort of classic has, and it just didn't really make for fun reading. And to be honest, by this point I was just looking forward to not having to read any Little Women books, because the second half of this month had definitely not had any great Little Women retellings that I really enjoyed, as I did with Meg, Jo, Beth and Amy in the first half. Yeah, I really, like, just as before I get on to the last Little Women retelling, but I really didn't find much originality in a lot of the books and a lot of the Little Women retellings that I read in the second half of the month, which I know is difficult to say because obviously they are retelling, so there's an original storyline that they have to stick to. But yeah, just that was it. It was just like reading the same book over and over and over again. Like, not much fun there, which I haven't experienced when reading books based on Jane Eyre and books based on Pride and Prejudice. This month I found, in May I found particularly hard. Yeah, there's a lot of sort of like identikit things happening. Cancer being a main one, Jo shaving her head in solidarity of her sister being another one. Yeah, I just haven't enjoyed these retellings as much as I have when I've done this previously. But the last book, which was another Little Women retelling, was March by Geraldine Brooks. And I gave this 3 stars. So again, I liked it, I didn't love it, but this finally had some original content in it. And this is, whilst the creative license sort of went a bit wild with Mr. March's life, this follows Mr. March, the girl's father, and his life before and whilst before the girls were even born, and then whilst he's away at war. What I did find is that it literally made Mr. March and Marmee the most wokest, like kindest, purest people you will ever meet. But I sort of didn't mind it because I had read the same thing over and over again for the month, so I was quite enjoying. But yeah, it includes sort of like well, one thing I did find funny, although a few people messaged me about this on Instagram afterwards, as I said, like, he's even made a vegan in 1840. But apparently Louisa May Alcott's father was a vegetarian, and like a very early vegetarian before vegetarianism had happened. So maybe that is what it's based on. But yeah, like, he's really strong on the veganism in 1840s, and I think, bloody hell, imagine. Although I guess you're not buying stuff with milk in 1840s. I don't know, I didn't live in 1840s. Yeah, this was sort of like, I've said 3 star, but it's more of a sort of 2.5 territory for me. Sometimes the piousness was a bit too much. I found the abolition parts interesting, so it focuses on Mr. March's relationship with a woman who is a slave. And yeah, I also like the brief switch to Marmee's perspective and point of view, because I actually believed in this Marmee in this book. So yeah. There we go. The last one I'll just mention is that I DNF'd this, which is The Little Women Letters by Gabrielle Donnelly, my first DNF of the year. And that's because, so this I thought was going to be original material, and I was quite looking forward to it, and that this is Jo March's great-great-granddaughters discovering letters that the sisters have written to one another. However, literally in the first 12 pages, there were 3 mentions of how many calories were in food. Don't eat that because you'll get fat. Oh, she was able to eat whatever she wanted and not get fat. Like, within the first 12 pages, and I was just like, fuck that, that's not for me. Ain't nobody got time for that. So yeah, and it's just fallen on the floor and I don't even give a shit. So those are the books that I read in the second half of May. Soon there'll be a wrap up going on of the books that I've read in the first half of June, so look forward to that. Sorry it's a bit late, my tooth's better now, and I'll see you all again soon for another BookTube video. Goodbye!